Welcome and good morning to the Michigan Roundtable's news conference on race, residence, and regionalism, the past and the future of metropolitan Detroit. We're here today because race is still a critical issue in metropolitan Detroit, a major stumbling block for any serious efforts to revitalize our region and regain our prosperity. The facts are clear. We must rebuild Detroit if we're going to be a prosperous region and state. And it's equally clear, one of the biggest impediments to rebuilding Detroit is the division between black and white in our region. Today's regional segregation by city and township is no accident. Historically, blacks were limited to a few Detroit neighborhoods, such as Black Bottom and Paradise Valley. White neighborhood associations fought aggressively to prevent black families from moving into their communities. These private acts of discrimination were reinforced by government policies and institutions such as redlining and the discriminatory lending practices of the Federal Housing Administration, as well as a refusal to locate affordable public housing near areas of opportunity. Hester Wheeler of the Detroit NAACP often says, and it's true, where we live shouldn't determine how we live, but it does, far, far too often, and that is not acceptable in today's society. Today, the Michigan Roundtable unveils a declaration that addresses the history of housing and race in the region, how that history impacts the lives of those living here today, and what can be done to create a new regional culture in the future. The primary points of the declaration are the establishment of a Truth and Reconciliation Commission inspired by the process that took place in South Africa and Greensboro, North Carolina, will allow us to develop an appropriate understanding of past injustices and to envision constructive remedies to create a new regional culture of fairness, equal opportunity, and prosperity. Racism casts a long shadow over the experiences of all of Southeast Michigan. We still feel the effects of those troubled times. Racial segregation is also the segregation of opportunity and hope for the future. An inclusive and prosperous future can only be assured by an inquiry into and an understanding of the structural dynamics of racial segregation, past and present. Those who sign this declaration are supporting a commitment to work with the people and institutions of metropolitan Detroit to promote truth, understanding, and hope for a future with opportunity for all. Now I'll ask FREDA Sampson of the Roundtable. FREDA's the housing project manager to make some remarks as well.
An inclusive and prosperous future can only be ensured by an inquiry into and an understanding of the structural dynamics of racial segregation, past and present. The establishment of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, inspired by the process that took place in South Africa and in Greensboro, North Carolina, will allow us to develop an appropriate understanding of past injustices and envision constructive remedies to create a new regional culture of fairness, equal opportunity, and improved prosperity. Some say we shouldn't bring these matters up, that it's ancient history, that it has no impact on today's world, and that we should be a colorblind society, especially with an African American in the White House. Well, we say no. It's not about blame, it's about truth-telling, an acknowledgement of what took place in Detroit, and taking the responsibility to make a change. In fact, by refusing to talk openly about the race-specific causes of racial disparities, we actually worsen the extent of those disparities. After all, if we don't talk about the problem, it becomes easier to assume there isn't a problem any longer. This requires ignoring the facts of studies that show how white felons are more likely to get a job than young African American men without criminal records. And in 2004, a study by MIT and the University of Chicago found that applicants with white names were 50% more likely to be hired or called back for an interview than those with black names, even when the qualifications were indistinguishable. The Michigan Roundtable is dedicated to making sure that these issues are brought into the light of day, and recognize that we have a serious discussion about how to reconcile our hope and our visions with the reality of the world, and that this process helped us renew the effort to overcome the hurdle of racism in Metro Detroit, a hurdle that we must rise above if this region is to regain its position as a prosperous, innovative hub in this state and in this nation. I would like to introduce to you our poet, Aurora Harris. Aurora is going to read for you our declaration that's printed on either side of the boards that we'll be signing, but we want you to just take in for a moment the words of the declaration, as this is what we are saying as we move forward and prepare for the Truth and Reconciliation process.
This nation was established on the promise of equality and opportunity. Delivering on this promise for all people is an ongoing struggle. We all share a linked fate. As we fulfill this promise, we all benefit. When any individual or group is denied equality and opportunity, we all suffer. Having the courage to examine and understand our history can help build a more just society. Truth provides the foundation for reconciliation. Reconciliation provides the foundation for hope and the promise of a supportive and inclusive future. The contemporary challenge. Detroit is the most segregated region in the country. Detroit is the most segregated of the nation's 100 largest metropolitan areas. The 2000 U.S. Census provides a mirror of our social reality. 2 of every 3 communities in Metro Detroit are more than 90% white. 1 of 3 is more than 95% white.